Well, welcome back to another episode of Catholics Living Discipleship. I'm your host, Darren Nelson. And in today's episode, we get to speak with Angela Daly, who right now is a program director for the Catechetical Choir. It's a project that she'll briefly talk about in the Diocese of Austin, but she's also a member of the team for Pathways at St. Jerome's in Waco, Texas. And we're going to be talking about what the benefits of Pathways has been at the parish and ways in which we can engage parents and families. So welcome so much to the podcast, Angela. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to visit today.
Yeah. So, quickly tell us a little bit, because that's such a tongue twister. The Catechetical Choir, the program. Tell us a little bit about what that project is, and maybe we can have you come back and go a little bit deeper.
Sure. In many ways, the Catechetical Choir is a baby of the Pathways program because as our team kind of researched and really dug into Pathways, I just fell in love with the mindset of Pathways and the paradigm of what they do. And so we had an opportunity to write a grant in the diocese, and we wrote this project that just has to do with helping kids return to the early church, as like a wellspring for their faith life and for their connection to Jesus Christ through the Word, through the fathers of the church, through music. And so it's very much a family-based initiative, but we're forming kids for this second apostolic era to be music ministers and just to be really strong and in love with Jesus and strong with their faith. So
Wow, that sounds great. That sounds awesome. Yeah. Um, very very creative, actually. That's the word I was thinking. Is there creativity to it, or?
for sure. I mean, it's very much just been a journey. And for me, my journey in thinking about all of these things, the state of the church, just the environment that we find ourselves serving in, it's been a journey, and Pathways has been a big part of it. And Father Tim at Pathways has been a really big part of it. And just the call to return to the catechumenal process.
Mhm.
And, the catechumenal process was the way that they formed people in the early church. And it's so appropriate now that we are living in a time very similar to the early church that they're calling, the second great apostolic era. And so I thought, oh, I bet we can expand on that because there's the catechumenal process, but who are these guys that guided the church in the first apostolic era? And they're the fathers of the church, and they defended the church through heresies and through tumultuous times, and they helped the church to spread in a culture that was antithetical to the church, during the persecutions of the early church. And so I thought, man, what great allies these fathers would be for these kids as they're
Mhm.
learning to, live in a culture that is not predominantly Christian anymore. So, um, that's a really big connection between the two. And that's why I say that Catechetical Choir is in many ways a baby. It's offspring of Pathways and the work that they're doing at Faith and Family Life Catholic Ministries.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the parish, St. Jerome, and the impact. Like, what has the impact been for St. Jerome with Pathways, with this ministry from Faith and Family Life?
It's been just, it's been amazing. I think it's been transformative. It's been a huge culture change in the young families at our church. And I mean, as it is now, our numbers are higher than ever. We're attracting people from all over the area to our programs. Um, People love it. We've got moms and dads involved, and it's been a huge blessing. I think on any given night when we're running the Pathways module, the campus just looks like it's like an anthill if somebody put a stick into it. It's like everybody's running around as crazy, is swarming, you can't find a parking spot. So it's brought this amazing like energy to our campus and to our community. And it's been just amazing. It's been really unifying too, because the older people at the parish see that, and they're involved with us, helping us
Mm.
on accompaniment teams, and so it's been this great like unifying experience for the parish as well.
Hmm. You mentioned a culture shift, and a culture shift is something that's so important right now for parishes, right? To help the culture of parents and the way in which the children experience formation be shifted.
Mhm.
Angela, in your own way, tell us a little bit about what the culture used to be like and what that shift is. Like why that shift is so important. But what have you shifted from? Because I think a lot of people probably could relate to that, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of parishes are at the place. We were at the same place, and from a parent perspective, my experience was, I would drop my kid off at the curb for their faith formation class, and they would go in and they would sit at a table with a bunch of other kids, and there would be a workbook, and there would be some volunteer catechist in the room, and my child would hear the lessons and fill out the workbook pages and get back in the car, and that was it. And that was my child's faith formation. And for me, as an adult, I wasn't really particularly involved in faith formation because I saw this window of time that my children were in faith formation. I saw that as like my chance to go run to the store and grab a few things or something like that. And so then, and that's kind of what most of our parents did. Even though we had confession, we had adoration, we had adult faith formation stuff going on at this time, the overwhelming feedback was the parents either leave or they're in the car in the parking lot on their phones. So from a staff member, my perspective was we were always trying to recruit catechists, train catechists, and then we'd have issues come up when, the catechist said or did the wrong thing. And then we were always trying to find space because we'd put 13 kids in a classroom, but we'd have 300 kids, so where do we put them all? We're always like trying to put kids in broom closets and stuff so that we had enough classroom space for all the kids. And then we had huge problems with attendance because it just wasn't that like faith formation would get bumped for soccer all the time.
Hmm.
So uh, we never felt like the top priority of the families before. And it, it was just, and then, you would see these families for class, but then you wouldn't see them on Sunday at Mass, or you never see them in line for confession or anything else. So it just felt like faith formation was this like totally disjointed thing. And the saddest thing for me as a parent was my child would come home and I would just be like, tell me about your class. And she'd be like, oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like faith, hope, love. And I'd be
Hmm.
like, well, who's in your class? She'd be like, I don't know, mom. I don't know any of their names. I don't know the names of anyone in my class. And so it just wasn't working. It felt like we were swimming upstream all the time, trying to make it work. And the families weren't really getting anything out of it. So for us, we came to a point where like we got to do something different because a lot of what we're doing feels like a waste of time.
Hmm. Yeah. And oftentimes when I'm having conversations with people about this shift, where we're shifting from the traditional religious ed that most parishes experience to family faith formation, is the concern that the kids are not going to receive the catechetical or educational information that they would generally be receiving in that more traditional model. But what what do you find is the truth behind that? Because you were kind of alluding to it a little bit with asking your child, "Hey, what was the experience like?" Are they what's being retained from your perspective? As a
I mean,
parent. Yeah.
yeah, as a parent, I mean, my husband and I have 6 children. We have 2 older and 4 younger. So our 2 older girls went through the old model, and our 4 younger children are in the new model. And so my perspective is, and also teaching confirmation classes and stuff over the years, that you teach them the things they're supposed to know for the bishop to come quiz them. You're lucky if they retain it that long. Like
Right.
in the week between the class and the thing and the quiz. But yeah, I mean, the kids don't really retain the facts and the lists. So, it's like, oh, fruits of the spirit, you know what I mean? And maybe they can list them off for a week, but that's not really something they retain. And I think the beauty of the family faith formation model is that it when the whole family is engaged and really activated for their faith, then the kids' faith becomes they're swimming in the water of their faith all the time, and they're not just getting a sip of it on Wednesday nights. And so, my experience with family faith formation is that when the parents become the catechists and they can own that role and feel confident and supported in that role, then you've got a catechist in front of that kid 24/7. And the powerful moments, the most powerful moments to teach faith and shepherd our kids are, the moment when they lose the big soccer game, or when a kid was mean to them at school, or you know, when they experience some big disappointment. Like those are the moments that are so key and pivotal in their lives, and their parents are there for those in a way that, the volunteer catechist at the parish just never can be.
Yeah. And, there are moments that God desires to be present in your life as well. And if we don't understand how to invite Him into those moments, we're going to be looking for other things to help us deal with those life situations, right? And I really, my experience has been in working with pathways and other family formation or adult formation, is that it's helping people to understand, how do we invite God into our lives, both as individuals but also as an entire family, right? And it's
Yeah.
not just a that religious ed, the old traditional religious ed model, really, it almost encourages this individual faith, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, you make a really good point about how, we as adults deal with the same thing. We have hard moments, and oftentimes those are the times you'll find us on our knees, right? Because we're kind of at the end of ourselves and what we know how to do. And so when things are going well, yes, you're going to find us in prayer uh, in those hard moments. And yeah, when things aren't going well, people do really harmful things when they're kind of at the end of themselves. But so it's cool to connect these concepts to the adult experiences, because then it becomes so relatable. Like I was telling a dad, you know, if you think about your child's faith formation class the old way, if you want something to relate it to, imagine the last time you had to log on for your employer and do like the mandatory internet safety training module on the laptop. Like seriously, how much did you care? Did you actually even watch it? Did you retain any of it? It just becomes this like obligatory and habitual thing that you just got to punch the card, and like a pay to play situation.
Yeah.
And that's just not, the sad thing is that, man, that just, it kills faith.
Hmm.
It doesn't strengthen it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other part of this shift that I heard you allude to, that I think is important, that I've experienced as well, is parents are now being engaged in their own faith journey in a way that's helping them to awaken to the fact that, oh my gosh, I am hungry. I haven't recognized the hunger because I haven't slowed down enough to know it's there. But when you sit them around the table and you help them slow down a little bit, what's been your experience, Angela, in terms of what the how the parents become awakened to that?
Yeah, I think that for better or worse, it seems like the group of parents that we have now, myself included, we grew up with the mentality that when we got confirmation, we were, quote unquote, finished
Hmm.
with faith formation. And so I think it's you almost don't kind of see it as an option. You know what I mean? And so it's just not on your radar as a parent.
Hmm.
It is on your radar that, you want to make sure your kids receive the sacraments and those things. But in terms of adult faith formation, as, parents run our kids around to everything and you see the people that are involved in adult faith formation are like retired. And so
Hmm.
there's this like unspoken message that that's for people like when they're done with the phase of life I'm in, then you have time to do that other thing. And the thing that we're finding is that when the parents understand that like, oh, this is for me, this has been designed for me, it's designed to support me. And not only that, but they're sitting with each other and they're sharing stories and they're supporting each other. And oftentimes they'll say things like, well, I feel terrible saying this, and then they
Hmm.
say the thing and everyone else at the table is nodding in agreement like, oh yeah, I the same thing, I deal with the same thing. And so they're having access to this whole supportive community that they didn't know was available to them, and at the same time they're learning and growing. I think deep down parents really absolutely want to lead their children in all aspects of life.
Hmm.
And it seems like the only reason they kind of don't when it comes to faith is that they feel ill equipped. And so there's certainly a lack of confidence for most people, but it doesn't take much. It's like their eyes just open wide and they're like, oh, I can do this. This isn't rocket science. And they join the journey with their kids. And it's just
Hmm.
beautiful because it's so much joy. There's so much joy for the whole family there.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's very much the opposite vibe to the,
Hmm.
workbook, pencil, classroom model. There's just a joy and a freedom for the whole family.
Yeah, and I also found what they come to appreciate is the fact that people are sitting around the table asking them, "How are you doing?
Hmm.
What do you struggle with in your faith journey or in your family, in your life? Here's what I'm struggling with." There's a sense of trust that's being developed at the table among the the parents or adults that I'm not sure where else you would experience this level of vulnerability and trust to really be able to share what's on your heart. I don't think that's happening at, you know, I don't think it's happening at I'm going to just say, I don't think it's happening at the soccer field. I really don't. I don't think people
No, no.
pour themselves out like that. I think we kind of mask it or hide it
Hmm.
because we don't want to be seen as someone who's struggling or weak, or we always want to be seen as being strong. I think there's more strength in humility than anything else. you know
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in the very first math pathways module, seek, really important part of that is just acknowledging that we all experience brokenness. And it's not explicitly in the content, but the way it's sort of developed at our parish, sort of, this concept of brokenness that, like, let's say you had this like heirloom china bowl and it had a big old chip or crack in it. it would be your inclination, if you're going to display it, you would put the chip or the crack at the back because you
Hmm.
don't want people to see that. That's not the thing you want to present. But we just sort of encourage parents that, like, you know what? Let's turn it around. Let's show each other our cracks and chips because, then by just revealing those things to the light, we're allowing a space for God to enter. And so with Pathways, you set up that sort of vulnerable sharing like right at the very beginning.
Hmm.
And it becomes really the status quo for when the parents gather together, they already feel like they don't have to put on a false front because they left that behind at the very beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to now share with your children, um, this is one of the main reasons why God is here for us in our lives is to heal the brokenness and strengthen us so that we can become who he knows we're capable of becoming, of who he desires us to become. If if we can't share that, then what is it that we're teaching our kids God is? If we can't share the reason
Yeah.
why God is actually present here, why Jesus came,
Yeah.
what's the
No,
point of that?
it's really important for us as parents, but also it's an important thought that we're all broken. We all need God. We're all here on this earth to like engage in this process of, you know, healing basically. And so because the flip side of that is so you can either go through life believing I'm broken and God is good, or what's going on in our culture a lot right now is people feeling like, well, I'm good. There's nothing wrong with me. It's the world that's bad. And
Yeah.
things in the world are hurting me and the world is bad. But the end of that is, well, God created the world. So if God created a bad place for me to be, then it has to end with God being bad. So really there's only two ways to look at it. It's either I'm broken and in need of God and God is good, or God is bad and broken and against me and I'm good. So it was like there's only two perspectives, and we have to kind of guide people towards it. And people don't realize that, right? Like people don't play that out till it's ending,
Right.
but if we steer them in the right way, there's a sense of really peace and hope in the idea of accepting that, I need God and he's my healer and he came for me and he has a plan for me to walk with him and be with him forever someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, participating in the pathways, Angela,
Mhm.
and I say this kind of jokingly, but is it painful for people? Like, is the process painful or, it's seek because we're changing the culture of the parish, right?
Mhm.
Meaning parents are so used to dropping the kids off. Um, but yet now as family formation happens at the parish level, the families are coming together. There's no longer that parent time where they can run to the store or scroll on their screen. Is it painful to be switching into this?
I mean, the first year we implemented this, there were definitely, you know, there was pushback from certain people, and and that's okay. I mean, what we just told people is like, listen, that's totally okay. If you want to do it the old way, there's three parishes. Within 15 minutes, you can go do it. It's not going to hurt our feelings, you know what I mean? And there was a lot of just explanation that had to happen, a lot of communication because it is something so new that like, I never experienced this growing up, and so
Right.
I don't have a frame of reference for it. So a lot of explaining, but what we found is that Well, the funny thing is that, they show up for the first night of Seek and they think they're going to come to like a parent meeting. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then it starts becoming like a retreat and they're like, what is happening? And but you know, almost everybody to a one, I mean, really, really loves it when they sort of open their hearts to it. And I mean, they tell us like, when I come here on Wednesday nights, like this is my self-care time. And it's so important, right? Because of course, as parents, we're the first ones to jump in the car and go run an errand instead of engaging in self-care. So it's actually really a blessing to be part of providing that for people. You see them come in and just sort of decompress as they're sitting there
Yeah.
waiting for the thing to start. And some of them even start to come early. They're like, oh, I was here 10 minutes early, so I just came in. Just the quiet, the peacefulness, and the adult interaction is a huge blessing.
Yeah. I think there's what I often hear when parishes are first starting this is that there's a false perception from the parents, right? Like, I can't do that, or I don't have time for that, or that's not for me, or, but that's slowly what I'm hearing from parishes that have implemented this, that slowly goes away. And sometimes probably faster than slowly, like at the end of Seek, what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of the parents are like, wow, I really need this.
Yeah, yeah, they do. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think it's just easy to be direct with people and just be like, look, you drop your kid off at soccer practice, you sit there and you watch the practice because that's how you're a good soccer parent, you know? So, I mean, we're just asking you to engage here with this. And I mean, in, in all truth, I mean, what are you going to do in the 45 minutes? Yeah, maybe you pick up a few things at the store, but I mean, it's not really a useful chunk of time anyway. You know what I mean? And they just get so much out of it. We all get so much out of just spending that little bit of time together, just giving it to the Lord, opening our hearts to each other, to the community. And they'll say things like at the end of Seek, Seek is 4 nights. So they've spent, and it's 2 hours. So say 8 hours, 8 hours total they've spent. And they'll say things like, wow, I've never had friends at church before. And
Hmm.
and now I do, you know?
Hmm.
Like I never went to mass expecting to see people I know there,
Hmm.
but now I do. And that's hugely powerful because like Catholicism was never meant to be experienced on an individual basis.
Hmm.
It's just so powerful to help people engage in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that friend aspect that I hear as well. And also maybe not so much in Seek, but probably does happen every once in a while. But when you shift from Seek to root being, that's when the parents really start to say, those parents who may not have been going to mass as much start to
Hmm.
say, I think I might want to go to mass, as a family. Because now they're starting to have a desire for more. And that
Hmm.
for everybody is different. The Holy Spirit works in everybody's lives a little bit differently. How have you seen that happen?
So actually just this last week, I it I didn't even share this with my husband, but it was really touching for me because there's this family. And at our parish, we really lean into early childhood ministry because we kind of realize that that's when families start to form their community. So I remember this family, they have two little boys. I remember seeing them in the church nursery and in early childhood programming. And they were real patchy. Like I'd see them once a month, maybe. And then there was maybe like 6 months when I didn't see them at all. And then, so kind of for a few years. And then now their oldest son, First Communion Prep is a 2-year thing. So the first year they're doing Seek and Root as a family. And then the second year they're going to start Sacrament Prep. So here they are. They did Seek, they're in Root. And we just finished our third session of Root. And I saw them just on Sunday at our big main Palm Sunday Mass, which, the big main Mass it's a whole thing. And the procession and the whole, I mean, the whole deal. And I mean, it's long. It was an hour. It was a good hour and a half long. And there were people piecing out after communion. And I mean, I don't blame them. Like, if you weren't planning on it being that long, you might be in a pickle. But I watched these people sit there through the entire thing. And I just thought to myself, and they have two little kids. I mean, that's
Mm,
hard. I just thought to myself, they would have never done this a month ago. They would
mm,
have never done this. And it was just it was just such a cool because I'm just sitting like three pews behind them, just watching them, and just it just felt like a huge Holy Spirit moment for that family. And yeah, and this was after years of kind of back and forth, on and off. And I do think that Root is the first time in the, Seek is pretty like at our parish we call it like a zero entry event.
mm.
You just walk in. You don't have to know anything or do much. And but then Root is the first time that we're really sort of demanding something of them and calling them to do something that is a little bit difficult. And it's amazing to see them rise to the occasion
Mm.
because they really, and I think that's something that we have to be careful with as faith formation leaders because sometimes we feel like if we make it too hard, they won't want to do it. But my experience has been really quite the opposite. If they feel supported, they they're very willing to do hard things. These people love their children. They'll do anything for their children. If
Yeah.
you present them with something that they know is good for their children, they definitely rise to the occasion. So,
Yeah. What I love about Root, and for those who might be listening to this and not know much about pathways and seek and root, root is that um, 7 gatherings at the parish where you go home with a box, a box that has an activity for your family. I believe it's 6 activities, right? 6 at-home
mhm.
meetings, because your first gathering is time is holy, and then you start after that. And at first, when you start thinking about activity for the family, it might seem overwhelming, or how am I going to do this with my family? We're in 10,000 different directions during the week. But it's simple enough.
Mhm.
Everything's right there for you, that it helps you as a family. If we really whittle it down, it helps you as a family to find 15 minutes in your family life to pray together and acknowledge God. I mean,
Yeah.
when you really
Yep.
make it that simple, and isn't that what we desire for all families? Is
Yeah.
that
I was sitting in a table group, I don't know, a few months ago, and the parents were sharing, they were reflecting on how their very first family meeting in Root had gone. And so that's kind of, when you come together, one of the first reflection questions is, okay, how did your last family meeting go? And this dad says, well, we asked the kids, like, how do you view God? Or what is your perception of God? And he goes, I don't know about their answers. They weren't really into it, whatever, whatever. And one of the other parents says, but don't you think the most important part is that you ask them that question? And he just stopped and he was like, I guess you're right. And it was really powerful because just the support and the care, and also just the realization that it's not about it's not about what the kids say or what we quote unquote accomplish. It's about being there
yeah,
and having that access and asking the questions that kind of change the dynamics of our family in relation to God.
yeah, yeah. And I think there are just so many parishes out there, pastors, volunteers, parish leaders, however you want to name them, who are trying to answer this question: how do we help families, parents be more engaged so that they have a desire to come back to Mass? How do we help that? Well, you know, even Stephen would say that a program doesn't isn't the bullet, isn't the silver bullet to that. However, getting them around the table to start having these conversations both at the parish and at home is helping us to answer this question and helping the families start their own journey of faith together, not as individuals, right?
Yeah.
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 I, I, I think I heard a talk one time that really changed my perspective as a parish leader. Um, I think it was Father John Ricardo.
Hmm.
It was a talk that he was given, and he said our job is to present the kerygma in a way that is convincing and appealing. And it was that second part that I felt like we weren't really doing well because we would give handouts, we would give worksheets, we would, talk about it from the pulpit, but it was the convincing and appealing part that we just weren't like I and again, when you're working in a parish, you love people and you want to serve people. And so, but on the other hand, there's some underlying assumptions that you maybe don't realize, and maybe that's our brokenness that we turn towards the wall a little bit, where we're thinking, well, they're not really going to be interested in this. Or, if we ask them to do something hard, they're not going to want to do it. Or, you know what I mean? Like, well, let's just make it easy for them. And I just think that, yeah, all of those things have just led us in the wrong direction for too many years.
Hmm. Yeah. Angela, what would be, for those either viewing this or listening to this, what would be a suggestion that you would want to give to them as to what could be a next step? Doesn't have to be a huge step. You don't have to go from, but what would be a next step from listening to this conversation that you would say to help encourage moving, to shift this culture?
I mean, for a lay person, it really takes, the whole team, the pastor on down, everybody sitting down, going to prayer, and really having some openness to let go of some of the things that we think are mandatory. And we have to hold all of those things so loosely. And we have, and you know what, a really helpful thought for us was because it's hard to let go of these things because you think to yourself, well, I'm accountable to the diocese. Like I have to be able to check the box that says I taught these kids these things. And I'm not going to be able to quote the paragraph number to you, but the Catechism says that we receive grace from the sacraments in the magnitude that we're disposed to receive that grace. And we just kind of realized, these families, the parents, the kids, we're preparing them for sacraments, but are they really getting the benefit of the sacraments if they're not experiencing like a conversion of mind and heart and life? And so we just sort of decided that we were going to focus on the conversion part, the heart, mind, and life part. And that really started with helping people feel like they knew each other
Hmm.
and were part of a community that when you come to church is somewhere you come to feel accepted and loved and supported as opposed to just somewhere you come to receive some sort of information download.
Hmm.
Our contention has always been that like if someone falls in love with Jesus and their heart is on fire for Jesus, nothing's going to stop them from learning facts about Jesus. Like we're not
Yeah.
going to get in their way and we'll
Right.
give them facts, but it's the heart part that's the hardest part. And I think I've heard it on your podcast, but obviously what is it, the old saying about like the longest journey being the 12 inches from the head to the heart. So we just decided to go after the heart first, and it
Yeah.
looked very non-traditional.
Yeah.
It looked very non-traditional at first.
Yeah. Jesus built community. I mean, he started by just inviting, hey, come on, let's sit down,
Yeah.
let's talk. I mean, he asked very simple questions to his followers. You know, in the Gospel of John, when the disciples started following him, he turned around and said, what are you looking for? What do you,
Yeah.
that's a simple question that we can ask. What are you looking for in life? What are you looking
Yeah.
for in your relationship with God? What are you looking for in your relationship with your children? You know?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he asked blind man Bartimaeus, what would you like me to do for you? How do you want me to strengthen you? Do you need compassion? Do you need mercy? Do you need healing? Do you need strength? What is it? You know,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think what you said about communities is, coming together um, and praying is just is so important. This 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 has been great. I feel like we could sit here and keep talking on and on and on about
Yeah.
how important this is and how impactful this is. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk through the experience that you've had at St. Jerome.
Thanks so much for visiting. I think, in the same way that parents need community, those of us that are like working in this field and just trying to serve God in this way, we need community too. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's what you're providing for so many people.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. If you want to learn more about Faith and Family Life Catholic Ministries, if you want to hear more about that, there's a few places, and the links will be below in the description. You can come to one of our websites, avibrantparishlife.com, where you can learn about the different ways in which you can support your parish. We have different areas, and there under family formation, you can find out about Faith and Family Life Catholic Ministries. You can see the podcast I did with Stephen. This podcast will be there as well, and a few others. And also, you can just go directly to Faith and Family Life Catholic Ministries as well, and that will be in the link below. And if you want to reach out to me, I'd be happy to connect with you on that as well. So, Angela, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Darren.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you at the next episode. Take care. God bless.